In this video, we're going to look at the different functions that make up the count function range. Now, count functions are useful when you want to count occurrences of data in a range. Now, don't get count mixed up with sum, as the count functions count occurrences of data and criteria, whereas the sum function will add values together to give you a total. So don't get those two functions mixed up. Now, let's start by looking at just the count function. And to get the count function, it's simply equals count, and then you open brackets. Now, the count function is going to return the count of numbers in a range of data. And dates will also be recognized as numbers. So let's just have a look at the data set that we've got here. So in column A, I've identified some branches. And then in column B, I have identified the sales for those branches, okay? Now, I've thrown us a bit because I have in B14, I've written a date. So that's the dates we're going to expect those sales. I then have two cells, which are text cells, which just say TBD. So we're expecting those sales to come through. In cell B21, there is nothing. It's a completely blank cell. There's no hidden formula behind there at all. There's nothing in that cell. And in B26, what I've done is I've written a formula, an if statement that just says if A26 is equal to the word Manchester, then put nothing or the double speech mark. So the cell appears to be blank, but it's actually a non-empty cell. Now let's have a look at the count function. So we've written a formula that is equals count, open brackets, and then we've selected the range of data in the sales column. And the result of that formula is 18. So it's saying that there are 18 numbers within that range of data. Now remember that a date is going to be recognized as a number, so that's going to be included in that 18. So we can have a double check. So these are all numbers. We're going to include the date, number, number, and number. And there are 18 cells that we've got highlighted there. So that's how your count works. Just remember that date, because Excel sees a date as a numerical number. If I was to change the format of that date to a number, you'll see that I get 43,985 as a number. That's the numerical value of the date. Okay, so Excel sees that as a number, but we're going to format it back to a date. Let's have a look now at count A. Now think of count A as count anything. So let's have a look at the description. Count A returns the count of any non-empty cells in a range of data. So a formula resulting in nothing or the double speech marks is classed as a non-empty cell. So that's going to be counted in the count A function. So the function is just equals count A, and then you open your brackets. The range of data, again, we're looking at is the sales value. And the result of that formula is 21. So we can have a look again. So counting anything, we're going to count all these values, plus the date, plus the text. We're not going to look at a blank cell because there is absolutely nothing in that cell, but we are going to include these values and then also the cell which have got a formula in resulting in nothing. Okay, because that is not a non-empty cell. It's a cell which has a formula in it, so it will be counted in the count A or count anything. So your result is 21. The only thing it excludes in the count A is an actual completely blank cell. Now, talking of blank cells, let's move down to count blank. Now, count blank returns the count of any blank cells in a range of data. And a formula resulting in nothing or the double speech marks is classed as a blank cell. So let's think about blank cells as visually blank. So what you see on the screen if the cell is blank or not. The function is simply equals count blank, and we've selected the same range of data. And the result of that formula is 2. So the two cells that are going to be picked up are the blank cell with nothing in, and also the formula cell which results in nothing or your double speech marks, because that is being seen as a blank cell. So just be wary if you've got formulas resulting in nothing or your double speech marks, they are seen as a blank cell in the COUNTBLANK function. Now let's move down to COUNTIF. Now COUNTIF returns the count of cells that meet a certain criteria. And the criteria that I want to look for is going to be any values that are greater than 20,000. Now if I just have a look up on the formula bar, if you want to find something that is greater than or less than, then you have to put that in speech marks within your function. Okay, if it's just equal to a number, you can just type the number with no speech marks. But if it's greater than or less than, you need to include those speech marks or Excel won't understand what it's looking for. Now, the result of that formula is 16. And we can have a quick check. So anything that's greater than 20,000. So all these figures, these, and all of these. Now let's have a look at the bottom. So that's 15 items that we've counted, but the result of the formula is 16. Now that's because, remember, the basic count function, Excel is going to see a date as a numerical value. And if you remember what that date was in its numerical term was about 43,000. So that meets the criteria in my COUNTIF statement of greater than 20,000. Therefore, that date is also going to be included in my COUNTIF statement or my COUNTIF function. Okay, so just be wary if you've got dates in columns and you're not getting the right answer, it's because Excel sees that date as a numerical value. If we move down to our final line here, which is COUNTIFs, very, very similar. The only thing that we're going to do now is base our count on more than one criteria. So let's have a look at the formula. Now I'm just going to do it in the actual formula so I can click in the function. So our function is COUNTIFs. The first thing we're going to specify is the range that we're going to find the first criteria in. Now I want to find anything in the branch of Birmingham that's less than £20,000. So my first criteria range is column A. So I want to look in this range for anything that is Birmingham. So let's put our comma in and move to our criteria. My criteria that I want to look for is Birmingham. Okay, so we've selected our criteria range, we've put a comma to move ourselves to the next step in the function, then we've specified what criteria we're going to look for. We'll then do exactly the same for our second criteria. So the second range that we want to look in for the next criteria is the sales value or column B. And the second criteria we want to look for is anything that is less than 20,000. Okay, so we just need to break it up. So focus on your first range and that criteria for your first step, and then focus on your second criteria and its range. Now you can have more than two criteria, you can have however many suits you, but I only need two for this example, so I've closed the brackets and the result of the formula is 2. So we can have a quick look. So here's our Birmingham data, and I only want to look for values that are less than 20,000, so in this case it's 12,000 and 10,000 to give us the result of 2. So hopefully this video has been helpful to explain the count function range. Please do keep an eye on my website and my social media pages for more courses and free mini courses and some other tips and tricks.